So you just received your results, or you just wrote an exam or test, and you're feeling anxious. Many of you don't know how to respond to this. Is there a right way to respond to immediately after writing a test, or when you actually receive your results? You may panic, feel overwhelmed, or just worry about the inevitable. Did I pass? What happens if I don't pass? What will my parents say? What will my sponsors say? All these are natural questions. Hi, my name is Chartered Accountant and Learning Strategist. In today's video, we'll be talking about my specific journey on how I responded to getting poor academic results in my journey of being a chartered accountant. Hopefully, at the end of this video, you'll be better equipped to number one, respond to results, no matter how good or bad they may be. And secondly, have tools in order to create a plan of action to address poor results so that at the end of the day, you can ultimately come out stronger at the end of the day, and so that you can be in a better position to achieve your goals. In this video, we'll be talking specifically about two distinct phases: before you actually get the results, so immediately after, but before they're released, and what happens when they actually released. These are two distinct periods, and we'll be covering the strategies for both of them. Make sure you watch till the end so that you can get the full benefit of the video. Let's go straight into it. Now, the first phase we're going to be talking about is, what do I do immediately after writing a test and I now feel anxious? I'm worried that it didn't go as planned in the test, and it may be that I didn't do well. It might affect when I'm going to actually write now, and I'm worried. What do I do? Right. The first thing, more than anything, is that you need to reflect. Now, reflection has to be honest and it has to be objective. Right. Now, as you reflect, right, the first thing in your mind that has to be stressed is the fact that immediately after you write a test, you need to ask the question, am I having other exams that are still on the way? If you're still going to be writing tests and exams, it's very important that you park whatever analysis you want to do. You simply relax, and if anything, focus on the next exam. It's very important that you don't allow what happened in that exam to dictate your future performance. The last thing you want is to have this dynamo effect where you do badly in one test, and because you lack confidence, it ripples down to your other exams. It's simply not worth it. So what I would recommend that you do is that you park any analysis until all the tests and exams are completed and are finished, right? Now, assuming that all the tests and exams are now complete, are finished, now you're in a better position to now honestly reflect on how you did. Now, there are main things to reflect on as it pertains to how well you did or how badly you did in a test. The first one is preparation. You need to ask yourself the question, did I adequately prepare for this assessment? Now, there are a series of questions that you can ask yourself in order to determine if your preparation was adequate. The first of which, did I attend all my classes with a purpose? Now, in our earlier videos, we do deal with this. Asking the question, why is this principle important? What problem is it solving? How do I actually apply it? And what is the trigger for me to understand this in the exam? Making sure and asking that question honestly. Did you actively participate in class to answer these questions? Secondly, did you apply techniques like the 24-hour rule and time scheduling to put in place all your activities and when you're supposed to do post-reading? And ultimately, that you make sure that at the end of the week, you were up to date with every single subject and every single learning area within that subject that was taught for that week, to such a point that you are ready to write the exam. And that's what we call the Monday rule. Specifically within that process of staying up to date every week, did you do all the practice tutorials under exam pressure, right? So what do we mean by doing all the tutorials under exam pressure? It means simulating the test environment, writing under time pressure, so that you can be in a better position to write well? Did you mark all your attempts in the tutorials? And when I say marking actively, actually understanding why you got things wrong, checking against the memorandum, and when the memorandum doesn't make sense, going back to your learning material in your textbooks to make sure that you understood the principle if it's a principal issue, or ultimately consulting with lecturers and tutors where you got stuck. All of these are fundamental questions that you have to answer in order for you to ascertain if the preparation was adequate. Now, if you've answered no to any of these questions, right, it could be an indicator that your preparation, i.e., was not adequate. Perhaps you didn't consult as was required, you didn't do your tutorials, right? You didn't ultimately keep up to date each week with the work. Then the next level of analysis is understanding why was my preparation not adequate. Now, typically there are two reasons why your preparation may not have been adequate. The first of which, there could be a knowledge gap. Sometimes you don't have the knowledge of the right systems or academic systems in place in order for you to do well. If that's the case, then you need to adequately upskill yourself. What are the right strategies in order to learn efficiently? If you don't know these, check out our video that we did where we actually outline exactly the learning strategies that we did. And hopefully, if you go through the learning strategies, and particularly the ones that I use that are scientifically proven that could help you as well, then you'll be able to compare with what you did. And hopefully, you'll start seeing any mismatches or gaps that you then need to rectify. But let's assume that now you've closed the knowledge gap and you actually understand the principles of the correct study strategy. Then the second reason why people don't do well from a preparation perspective is that they didn't follow through on the plan. Now, not following through on a plan can be caused by a variety of reasons. The first of which is that you didn't actually plan. Now, remember the old saying, failing to plan is actually planning to fail. This holds true as well in an academic setting. If you don't have a timetable with distinct activities that outline each and everything that you have to do, including post-reading, attending tutorials, consulting, and making sure that you're up to date each week, incorporating everything, you're most likely not going to be prepared. If it's not written down, if it's not planned, it's unlikely to be done. Another reason why you may not action or execute on a plan is because maybe you lose focus. Now, you may be distracted by all the novelties and all the activities that happen on campus. Now, as you lose focus, you need to remember your why. Why did I want to attend university? What is the reason as to why I want to achieve the goals I want to do? And typically the reminder can come externally, right? From consulting with your family who know your situation, who understand why you wanted to do this. They could reinforce and remind you so that you remain focused. You could also have accountability partners. We talk about studying in a group of committed fellow students. This is important because these committed fellow students can help you stick to the plan. When you feel tired and sluggish, you can actually latch onto their energy, latch onto their focus, because when they study, I also go and study. And ultimately, it helps you get over the line. Mentors can also be key sources of motivation for when you lose focus. Mentors have been there, they've done that. They represent where you want to be one day. When you look at their lives, you look at where they are in their respective industries and their professions, it can be a good motivator to remind yourself why you want to do what you want to do. And that's important in addressing the art of losing focus. But sometimes it could be a matter of self-discipline. Now, self-discipline and procrastination can also be a leading cause of you not achieving your plans, right? Now, ideally, we talk about activities that you can do to enhance your self-discipline, such as exercise. Is very good in order to keep yourself refreshed and focused so that you ultimately go and achieve your goals. Making sure that you incorporate reward systems. So you reward yourself at the end of the week by achieving all your academic goals, by having rest and fun at the end. That's a good way to be able to give yourself the motivation to remain self-disciplined. Engage in activities like yoga and meditation can also enhance your self-discipline. All of these activities are very good. Ultimately, lastly as well, breaking down your study sessions into smaller, manageable chunks. We talk about it consistently where we say break down your sessions, for example, into 2 hour blocks, and within each 2 hour block, breaking it down into smaller 25-minute intervals or pomodoros. That's a very good way to break it down so that you don't feel overwhelmed when you have to study, when you know that there's only short study intervals with breaks in between. Okay, so those are the reasons, and therefore it's very important in the preparation stage to understand as you reflect on your results what caused you not to be adequately prepared. Now, once you understand that preparation was the problem, you are more insulated to what the outcome will be. Because ultimately, regardless of what the result ends up being, you already know where the problems are and you can already start solving them in the interim in preparation for those results. Now, another reason that you could reflect on that maybe the reason why you didn't do well in the test or exam is that on the day you didn't pitch up as required. Now, this is very common. It could be that you did prepare adequately, right? You had a plan in place, you had the right study strategy, i.e., you were post reading, doing the 24-hour rule, making sure that you were up to date each week, having your timetable. All of these things were in place. You were consulting, doing tutorials and exam pressure. But ultimately, on the day of the exam, you simply did not do to your preparation. You didn't do well because you failed to answer those questions correctly on the day. Now, what could cause this phenomenon where someone actually struggles on the day despite being prepared? The first one is sometimes you end up arriving late to the exam venue or flustered. Now, this has happened to me before. I remember vividly going to an exam room very late, and ultimately I paid the price by not achieving my full potential. So always remember to be on time, to be punctual and relaxed before you go to it. Make sure that you've also slept adequately. Small things like sleep can make a massive difference to your performance of the day. If you were sluggish and you did not turn out at your best version, that might be the reason why you were sluggish in the test and exam. Other common reasons of not doing well at the day is poor exam technique. Exam technique can manifest itself in a variety of ways. For example, you didn't write all the questions, so you missed out on questions and you didn't finish the exam paper. Or it could be that you made silly mistakes on the day, and now that you're reflecting, you realize those silly mistakes, right? Or it could be that you just missed principles completely, right? Misinterpreted questions. All of these are examples of poor exam technique. Now, how do you rectify poor exam technique? You need to practice with the right intent when you do your tutorials. Now, the old saying that practice how you play is equally and crucially important when it pertains to making sure that you're prepared for your exams. Now, what do we mean by practicing how you play? It means, number one, exam pressure. But what does exam pressure mean? That I used to write with a pen and time myself and make sure that I write within the allocated time. This instilled that pressure within me to be able to score marks quickly and get my points across adequately within the allocated time. When the time lapsed, I then changed my pen to a different color, and this then allowed me to be able to continue, because ultimately you still need the principle even your time has elapsed. So always remember that. Another way to simulate exam pressure is actually trying to find ways to score marks even when the question is ambiguous or tricky. Now, by far, this is the most important thing or the most important objective of practicing tutorials under exam pressure, where most students get it wrong. So most of the time, what will happen when you do a tutorial, you might encounter a question that you've never seen before. And now, as you answer this question, it is a curveball and it's different to what you've seen in the lecture material or previous class examples. and now you're stuck. What should I do? Right? You need to develop a process. It's this process that you will then rely on when you go and write tests and exams. Now, at the core of everything that you learn are principles. So when in doubt, when you're stuck in a test and exam and you're busy writing, what's important there, as we address that, is that you need to then ask the question, what is the principle? What is the core essence of this topic? Once you appreciate the core essence and the principle of the topic, then you can break down that question to say, okay, this question is more closely related to this principle. So in this principle, this is how we were taught. So you break down that principle and you look for information in the test that correlates to each subsection of that principle. Then as you find the information that correlates, you then put the information in a logical order within the sequence of that principle. And hopefully, as we do this, you start formulating an opinion, formulating a view of what you think the answer should be. And the important thing here is not to dwell on whether my opinion or answer is right or wrong. Seldom, in my experience as a student, and as a junior lecturer, did I ever see marks being lost or won from the final outcome. It was usually the majority of the marks are earned by applying the process of the principle. With that said, when you encounter difficult questions in the exam room that might throw you off, it's always important to therefore reflect and see what principles can I use, and therefore focus on putting down the method in order to be able to get the easy marks, even though your final conclusion may be incorrect. And now another way in order to address and what you learn from practicing tutorials and exam pressure is the art of picking up which questions are easy and doing those first, and picking up where I can score easy marks. For example, in accounting, we used to have this notion of writing up skeletons, and you actually got marks for doing skeletons and copying titles and headers. That's what I mean by easy marks. Identify for the learning areas where are the easy marks and score those first before you start wrecking your brain in terms of thinking about these complex solutions that are required to solve problems. Now, all of these are things that you reflect on the day to say, did I actually do this? Did I have a process for dealing with difficult questions? Did I understand where the easy marks were? Did I answer all the easy questions first? Did I practice to write quickly under pressure? And did I actually translate that principle in the exam room? All of these are questions that you have to ask. And if you answer no to them, it's an indication that there's something wrong in how you actually prepare on the day that you need to fix, right? So that on the day it can translate into better results. Cool. Now that you appreciate all of these things, can you now see that you understand what caused you not to do well instinctively, whether it was preparation or on the day, right? Now, specifically, again, as we look at on the day, other factors that may cause you to do badly, maybe, for example, anxiety, you may have felt anxious on the day, or you got thrown off. Learn coping mechanisms. For me, I used to like going to the bathroom, right? Now, this might sound silly, but when I felt under pressure in a test, I just simply put my hand up and asked the invigilator if I could go to the bathroom. Now, that escaping the environment, helped me to be able to reduce my anxiety so that I could come back refreshed. Another way was looking at the ceiling and counting the different components there. Distracting yourself and remembering that at the end of the day, this is purely an exam. You're not going to die at the end of this, and trying to escape this hole that you seem to be in so that you know that actually you can do it. All of these are techniques that you can then reflect on and get guidance on with your lecturers and tutors. And hopefully now you know that you have to work on this in the next assessment. Now, hopefully once you've done this, you're better prepared to understand what your cause of potential disaster in that test or failure was. Now, this is before the results are even released. Now you're better positioned and you can start working on these issues beforehand. and not waste time waiting for the results. Now, the next phase of the process is now the results actually come, right? What do I do now? Now, there are two possible outcomes when the results come. They can A, confirm your analysis. Now, as they confirm your analysis, here you're very happy because you would have prepared for the fact that you didn't do well, and you already know the reasons why you might potentially not have done well. Now, the results will merely confirm that. Now, this is important because when the results come in, you may feel gutted, right? If you potentially did badly, right? If you did badly, you might feel, even though you were prepared for it, you might feel ashamed, embarrassed, sad, angry. All of these are natural emotions. Allow yourself to feel these emotions. Even if it takes the whole day to grieve, cry, remove the emotions, it's very important because we're all human beings. You can't move on without letting those emotions out. And then hopefully once you've done that, then you can start and go back to your plan and understand that actually it's not personal, right? The performance that happens or the results that come are not an indication of your intelligence or your potential. It's purely a reflection of what you did at that specific point in time. So therefore, you can always fix the situation. And hopefully you'll do that. And now, some of you might be asking me, but Tandu, what happens if I actually pass and I do well, but I prepared that I didn't, and I have all these issues that I picked up beforehand that might have caused me to do badly. Even in the instance where miraculously the result ends up favorable and does not correlate to what you expected, right? You still need to implement the plan that you've reflected on before the results came in. And that's why we do the reflection after the test, but before the results come out, because you always want to be kind of independent in your planning. You don't want the outcome to necessarily dictate to you where you need to go. Although the outcome is important as a reflection of where you are, you don't want it to take it personally, but rather use it to enhance or to see if you probably need to do more work, right? And understand that it's not personal, but you simply need to put in the work. Now, immediately once the test results come, then the next thing you must do is actually look at the test script and go through it in detail. This is very important, guys. It's very important. Many students miss out on this. Just because you failed and you didn't do badly doesn't mean you should throw away that paper as if it never existed. No, it's very important, regardless of whether you failed, regardless of whether you've passed. It's highly unlikely that you got 100%. The only people who are allowed to not look at their scripts are people who get 100%. If you did not get 100%, it means that you got something wrong somewhere, and you need to understand why you got it wrong. So that's why it's important to look at your script and go through the memorandum and check line by line, page by page, question by question, what I wrote versus what was expected for me in the memorandum, so that you can plug those gaps and understand why you got it wrong. Now, typically, as you do this analysis, you will notice there are recurring themes as to why you probably did something badly. So, three themes. It could be number one is that you misinterpreted the principle. Now, principle issues are very, very fundamental. If you pick up that you misinterpreted the principle, right, it's very important that you address this ASAP. Now, you can address it in a variety of ways. The first of which is actually going back and sitting down with your lecturers and tutors to make sure that they explain to you what the correct principle is, so that you don't fall into the trap of repeating that mistake again. And once you've actually consulted with your lecturers and tutors, the next step of the process would be to go and independently check yourself. Go and check using your own materials and see, why did I get these principles wrong? What was I thinking in thinking this was the correct principle? So very important, identify principle issues and address them immediately. The second reason why you didn't do well is because of silly mistakes. Now, silly mistakes happen, guys. We're humans. Take note of silly mistakes and really reflect and ponder as to why you made these silly mistakes. And if possible, put them down in a logbook so that you remember them for next time and you don't repeat them. They're less serious than principal mistakes, but they're also important to track so that they don't take place again. Another reason why you could do badly is that you didn't study the topic and therefore you didn't attempt the question or at all. In that instance, there's little that you can do. What I usually recommend that you do in that instance where you didn't study the topic and therefore you wrote something that was incorrect, it's important then that as part of your plan of action is that you actually study the material again and go over the material. And then it's important that you go and attempt that question again once you've studied the material and done the practice tutorials, and then check to see if I actually understand that principle. This will help you not only for the test, but also for future subsequent tests and exams. Right, cool. So very important to dissect and understand your weaknesses in the script. Once you've dissected and understood your weaknesses, and we've already talked a bit about it, you then want to go and speak with your lecturers and tutors. Now, this step of speaking with lecturers and tutors after going through your script is very important. And it's important for two reasons. The first of which, it provides a very important confirmation. Now, sometimes you may believe that you understand something when in actual fact you don't. So what the exercise does, it confirms your analysis so that you understand and you are comfortable that what the issues that I picked up are actual issues and are correct issues. The second thing why it's important to engage lecturers and tutors is that they provide a completeness check. Sometimes a lecturer and tutor can scan your script and they can already identify where the issues are based on what they're saying. And this is important because you may not pick up everything that's an issue, and they'll be able to highlight to you that you need to work on this so that you can add to the issues that you need to fix. Now, once you've done your sit down with your lecturer and tutor and gone through your script, it's important to set up follow-up sessions in order to talk about your progress. Don't miss this step, guys. Most people just sit there and then get the plan. Set up time with the lecturer and say, when can I come back after implementing my plan so that I can sit with you to see my progress? Set up time so that you can get that constant feedback to rectify the issue. Now, the third step of the element is to create your plan, all right? So once you've spoken with your lecturers and tutors and you've reviewed the script, you're better equipped to understand where your weaknesses are. Then you will create your plan of action. Might involve doing lecture materials and tutorials and going over those weak areas, doing the practice tutorials, or again, going back to lecturers and tutors to help you, regardless of what the plan may be. Make sure that it addresses the issues and that you utilize all the resources at your disposal, from textbooks to lecturers to tutors to YouTube to alternative materials. Use all materials so that you're better equipped to address the issues. And once you've done that, then you should then implement that plan. And then as you implement that plan, practice and track your progress, because tracking your progress is important, right? To understand, am I growing? Am I learning from this? And you typically track your progress from doing subsequent tests and seeing that you're now growing, and then also getting feedback from lecturers and tutors about your progress. Okay, guys, now hopefully this video has now summarized what I used to do in order to be able to respond to poor academic results. Now, hopefully it can help you too, right? So the next time you then finish writing a test and exam, right, follow this process that we just talked about, where you reflect before and after, and so that you can be better prepared to address all the issues that can come out from that exam or test. Now, let's chat in the comment section. Was there anything that wasn't clear or topic that you want us to expand on? Let's make sure that we share, we comment, so that we can amplify the message and be able to share it with as many people as possible. Now, until we meet again, remember that I believe in you. You can do it. Bye.